Hey guys, my name is Miranda Kay, and today we're going to be talking about The Housemaid by Freida McFadden and a little bit about Deadly Ripples by Penny Gochin. It's an arc. So The Housemaid was actually my first buddy read a couple of weeks ago, and it was so much fun. I'm glad my first buddy read was a thriller because you know, sometimes when you have theories about thrillers and then you're like, oh my gosh, I guessed that, people are like, okay, sure you did. But, you know, we were kind of going back and forth, and I guessed one twist, a twist early on, but then a couple other my theories were not correct. I'm definitely going to be doing more buddy reads. Afterwards, like, I had fun doing it, but since I can put a lot of hours into reading, I was reflecting on the experience, you know, and I got into my head about how quickly I was getting through the book, and maybe I had pressured her, and I really went into this anxiety spiral on, you know, anxiety. So it was fun, and I'll do more, but I think for me, I'm gonna have to, before we start the book, set an outline of however many chapters and how long we're gonna take to do that. But lesson learned, it was the first one. There was no negative experiences while it was going on. So Freida McFadden for me is an automatic buy author. She's more of a palate cleanser. Her stories keep me intrigued without too much pressure into really analyzing the book, because sometimes there are some holes in her stories, but it's fine. I enjoy her writing. So I know there are a lot of people who criticize her writing, but she's a popular writer, and I think sometimes she gets hate just because she's popular. Freida is really good about twists. So we follow this ex-con who is just getting out of prison, and when the story starts, she is homeless. She's living in her car, and she's doing whatever she can to find a job, putting in applications at fast food places, anywhere she can, and she'll get to the interview. They do a background check, find out she has been in prison, and then she doesn't get the job. So she takes an interview as a housemaid with this pretty well-off family. She didn't think she was gonna get it, but she went ahead and went through with the interview just to give it a shot. After a few days, she gets a call back where the wife is offering the job, so she takes it immediately. Job includes cleaning, just running errands for the family, picking up the daughter from school, just things like that. But she'll be able to live in their home with them, so she won't have to worry about any kind of rent. So Millie accepts the position, and whenever the wife takes her on a walkthrough in the house, Nina is the wife's name, she finds out that her room is actually just the attic that's just a little bit bigger than a storage closet. While she's in the room, she also realizes there's a lock on the door on the outside that she could be locked in. She asks for a key. Nina says she'll give her a key, but after some time has passed, she doesn't get the key. She gets really paranoid about it, which is understandable coming from jail, you know, just in general. Why would you have a door, you know, that's weird to have a door that locks the wrong way. Almost immediately, Millie realizes that something's kind of off with Nina. In the beginning, I wrote down, you know, I write down notes, and one of them was, I thought maybe Nina had a split personality. She would be praising Millie one moment, but then the next she would be just really harsh with her and mean, making messes, breaking glass on the floor. She also had a really jealous streak anytime she would find Millie with her husband in the house. And one of the things that you think is, why wouldn't Millie just quit her job and leave? Well, first of all, her family and everybody she knows has abandoned her, and she had a hard time getting a job in the first place. If she doesn't have a job, that's a violation of her parole, so she'll go back to prison. And her parole officer didn't know that she was sleeping in her car previous to this job, so she really had to stick it out. There's also a gardener, Enzo, who's kind of always, you know, milling around the place and looking a little bit like he's always kind of watching what's going on. I really was hung up on Enzo as a character, like what's going on with him? At one point I thought maybe he was a lover of the wife. And then one point I thought maybe he was a relative and he was just kind of there to be a protector over Nina, but it turns out those theories were not true. He does end up being a little bit more part of the story than you think, but not any of the theories that I thought. And their daughter Cecilia, or Cece. Man, she was just maddening. That's what I wrote in my notes. Cecilia is maddening. I knew in the beginning it couldn't just be lack of discipline. Obviously something was going on with Nina acting so erratic all the time. And at the beginning of the story, Nina and Andrew's relationship was really kind of cringy. Like something was odd. I didn't understand why, if Nina, when, you know, her personality kind of splits a little bit and she turns over to the more negative, judgmental, jealous, just angry person, why was Andrew staying with her? I just didn't understand. And he was just so sweet. It didn't make sense for him to be so sweet and understanding. That made me think there's got to be something going on with Andrew. Nobody would just be okay with being treated like that all the time and just be completely a doormat. So then at some point, Nina is leaving to go take Cece, the daughter, to take her to camp, so she's not going to be home for the evening. And Millie had gotten her some tickets to a show. Turns out the tickets were non-refundable, so Andrew offered to let Millie have the tickets and take a friend. She said she didn't have any friends, you know, because everybody's abandoned her. And of course, he says, well, I guess I could go with you. Terrible idea. We all know what's going to happen. They end up having like 2 or 3 bottles of wine at dinner and end up in a hotel room together. Now, when Millie was hired, she was given an iPhone by Nina. And the whole time I'm thinking, she's tracking her. She's gonna know, she's gonna show up there, maybe at the hotel room, you know, and bust them, you know, when they're doing the dirty. But that doesn't happen. They return home the next day. They think Nina has no idea, but it turns out she does. Things start unfolding, and Andrew and Nina get into an argument, and he says, I have feelings for Millie, the housemaid, you know, you need to leave, basically. So she leaves, and this is when the story gets really, like, interesting. It turns out Andrew is crazy. He ends up locking Millie in the attic and make her do some punishments just like he would do with his wife that we find out about after she leaves. So she's locked in there for quite a while, and at some point gets out, ends up locking him in there, and she really leans into the torture herself without skipping a beat. And at this point I was thinking, like, why isn't Millie maybe trying to call Nina and figure out, oh my gosh, she's not the crazy one, he is, like, what do we do? You know, get somebody else in there. But she doesn't call Nina. Meanwhile, Enzo and Nina are together, and he talks her into going back to help Millie. So she shows up there just right in time, of course. And then out of nowhere, here comes Andrew's ex-fiance's dad, who is an officer in town. And that's a little weird. I didn't like that just came in out of nowhere. It was such an afterthought. It was almost like she forgot about that character and like thought at the end, oh, I need to tie this up. And he helps out with them kind of being able to escape and get away with everything that's happened. Maybe that needed a little bit more thought, but it's okay. But like, did he cover up all the evidence? It didn't go into any of that information. There's a video camera in the attic. Like, what happened to all of that footage? For that matter, talking about the footage, Nina knew the whole time there was a camera in that attic. So the whole time he was torturing her on and off, she could have gone to the cops and when he was away at work and said, hey, there's a camera in here, this is what he's doing, and out the whole thing. And going back to the beginning when Millie was uncomfortable with the lock on the door in the first place, she had months in this house where nobody was there. She cleaned the entire house. She knew where everything was. She could have switched the lock around. I mean, the story would have been over in chapter 7 or 8 maybe. But even if they ended up switching the lock back, if she had switched it, then she would have been alerted to something is really wrong, you know, and then got herself out of there. Oh, which reminds me, we find out in the end where it really originated, which was Andrew's mom. I didn't see that coming, and that makes me feel really bad for his dad. Like, what's going on in that house? So overall, I gave it 4 stars. It kept me intrigued the entire way. Her books are always easy reads. That's why I use them as palate cleansers. So I don't think that I'm gonna be able to read the next 2 like immediately after. I'm gonna have some spaces in between. But I will come back to the rest of the series. Even though I've heard the other 2 are not as great, it's fine. It's Freida McFadden. I would read it anyway, so. Let me know if you guys have read it and what you think, even if you're a Freida McFadden fan or not. Let me know. So I'm just gonna take a couple of minutes and talk about Deadly Ripples by Penny Gochin. This is my very first arc that I've read. I've now read a couple more, but this is the first one I ever received. It'll be available September 17th for $16.95. It's about a girl who wants to be a writer and follow in her uncle's footsteps, but her family wants her to take over the family business and they're really pressuring her hard. She never really fits in even with the family except for with her uncle, and she finds out he's died in a car accident. She is left with his home, so she moves into his home and kind of does her own investigating. She feels like maybe the things she's envisioning that she's writing about are coming true and she might have caused the whole accident. Without giving away the story and the ending, it's kind of hard to talk about. Mysteries and thrillers always are. But this one, it has a good ending. I feel sorry for her the whole way, like the way she's treated with her family. But there is a bit of a redemption for her, so check it out. There will be a more in-depth review once it's out. I can't wait for it to come out and for people to start talking about it and having some discussions and this book getting out there. It's really exciting. So my next couple of reviews coming up will be One of Us is Lying and The 9 Lives of Rose Napolitano. I have already finished these and we'll be getting these reviews out soon as well. I've added so many more to my TBR list, but I really need some more spicy books to add in there. Not just like regular little romance, but yeah. Butcher and Blackbird I just got. Credence I just got. I'm reading Salt Kiss right now. Whoa. So be watching out for those soon. I will be reviewing them. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video.